we need to talk about From. From gets renewed for season 4 officially, according to the From social media, and a special video we get from Harold Perrineau, aka Boyd, that confirms season 4 is renewed. Now, I wanted to talk about this because I wanted to talk about From overall as a show. A lot of people are in my comment section. If you're familiar with my channel, I break down From theories. I have theories of my own. I do a detailed analysis of every episode, and I catch all the things everyone else is missing. Hit the subscribe button if that's what you're interested in. Like this video, and let's talk about From. From season 4 is officially renewed, and so we're officially going to get a season 4, and hopefully off of that a season 5. I think a lot of us saw this coming because the way the show blew up during season 3 and like the last month and a half has been insane, and it's starting to come across as almost a mainstream show. If you've been like me and you've been in this show since literally season 1 was premiering on wherever you watch it at, but I specifically watched it on Prime MGM Plus, you would know that we have been hoping that this show continues because it's been a great show since the beginning. I've mentioned on my channel a couple times, however, that you can tell the writers are adjusting to what they're seeing on social media. And I wanted to take a good opportunity right now to expand on that thought for you guys before we get this finale, before we get the answers we're looking for, and before what a lot of people are deeming we see the make or break episode of From. So I'm getting a sentiment across the community is that the show is not giving us enough answers. I believe I'm someone who sits on the side of, if you have not caught a lot of the details I bring up on my channel, and I will continue to make more videos even after the finale, explaining more of my theories in depth, going into specific topics in depth as we prepare for season 4, you are going to feel like this show makes zero sense. And a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people feel like this show doesn't make sense, that there's so many things that we don't have answered. And when we're waiting for the answers of things that we've literally seen since season 1, we seem to just be getting more questions and more plots and more things to add on to it. Even for myself as someone who creates content on this show, and I feel like a lot of people feel like I have a lot of things figured out, I get overwhelmed even in just trying to film and talk about some of these topics. I have to cut down what I need to talk about. I have to figure out the best way to say it nice and straightforward and easy to digest because it's a lot. There's a lot of things in this show. Because of that, this last episode is really going to be make or break for a lot of people in this show, because a lot of people who've been on board since the beginning and a lot of new people who have binge watched all the previous seasons up until this point feel as though this show has not given us any answers. When you name an episode Revelations Part 1, we should get some actual genuine revelations. And to a lot of people, that felt like it was just more setup and more added on plot. Now, if this last episode doesn't answer some big questions, again, I'm in the boat where I obviously want to start understanding what's going on, but I don't need everything answered. But I need to know something. Something needs to start making sense. And if we don't get that in this last episode and we just seem to get more questions than answers at that point, they could lose a lot of people. I mentioned also in my videos previously that you can tell from season 1 all the way to season 3, pay attention to the details, the dialogue, what's in the show, what's in the background, and what is happening. And you can tell the writers have adjusted to what people are saying on social media. I get a lot of comments who agree with me, and I also get some comments who are saying like, oh, they've said that season 4 and 5 are done being written, the story is finished. But I have to remind you, as someone who's been here since season 1 was premiering, someone who's been watching the show since pre the writer's strike, that this show was not done being written when a lot of the most popular theories on social media actually began. There's a lot of new viewers, a lot of new content creators, including myself, who are talking about theories that have been on this show since the beginning. So when I'm saying that a lot of these show writers are seeming to adjust the storyline according to the most popular social media theories, they're trying to insert scenes to feed the audience, like a Smiley cameo, for example. These are clear adjustments that any company and any writer would want to make if the show is not done and they want to adjust to what they're seeing people like and dislike about the show. The problem with that is that a lot of people bought into the original product, a story that seemed like it had an end goal already. And so to watch in real time as the writers make specific choices that seem like they don't actually know where they're going, and they're changing things according to social media theories that do not actually make sense and create a lot of plot holes, like Miranda and Tabitha being reincarnated versions of each other, which I'll talk about in another video after this next episode, because we actually don't know if that's 100% true yet. So I don't want to talk about something that we don't even know is true. So after this next episode, I'm going to break down this episode for you guys, and then we're going to get into the real reasons reincarnation does or does not work, regardless of what this show ends up showing us. But the reason those things don't work is because a lot of the theories on the show up until this point have missed quite a few key details on what is actually going on in the show. And as someone like myself and a lot of people who watch my channel have caught on to these details, and people who have seen those details before I even had a channel and are now just happy to see someone making content in the friendly community who has caught these details, they're setting themselves up to lose a major part of their audience based on how they decide to finish this story. And if they decide to finish this story by giving a bunch of viewer theory payoffs that don't actually make sense, we could be in trouble. That's all I want to say really about that concept. I love this show. I think regardless of which way they go with it, I'm going to watch it out to the end, and I'm going to appreciate it for what it was and what it could have been. We know that these writers are the same writers who come from Lost. As an original viewer of Lost as well, I understand that Lost was in an era of television that was more about drama. So that era of television, it was okay. It was more okay than it is now to make certain writing mistakes where things don't make sense. And the overall base lore of a show, the lore it's writing for itself, doesn't have to tie together. But now we're in the era post Game of Thrones, post Stranger Things, post some of the greatest shows we've ever seen be written and fully fleshed out for long periods of time. It's no longer an era where you can serve an audience where you have a lore heavy, mythology heavy audience and show. You have a thriller, a drama thriller, a drama horror show. And the horror aspect, the mythological aspect, the sci-fi aspect of it does not make sense. And that is the problem we're going to have with From if this show is not truly written and finished the way that it really should be. As someone myself who considers myself a very huge consumer of entertainment, sci-fi, thriller, drama, psychological thriller, history thrillers, all of the above, even just drama in general, shows that are really good at telling you a story about humans and human nature and human psychology, not even just about sci-fi. There are certain tropes, there are certain plot points, there are certain writing decisions that do happen for regardless of the show that I have seen specifically in From that do not make sense. And unfortunately for me, that is starting to scare me as someone who's been bought into the show since the beginning. These are great writers. It's scaring me that those writing decisions don't seem to actually be there. Some of these changes, some of these evolutions of the plot don't seem to be just right. And I'm scared for us potentially getting a Game of Thrones ending, a Lost ending. And if you're someone who really understands Lost as a show, you understand how flawed Lost really was. That's something I've seen be misconstrued a lot for a lot of people talking about From who don't truly understand what happened with Lost, which is that Lost was being written as it went. So a lot of the story plots and storylines that were being written into Lost were quite literally being made up as it was going. And it was still good plot for what it was. But at the end, for the most invested viewers, some things got lost along the way. And by the end of the show, the ending itself is one of the most misinterpreted endings to a show in history. There's still people to this day, and a majority of people who watch Lost who still think everyone died and went to purgatory. And that's not what happened at the end of Lost. And so that's what I'm so afraid for when it comes to From, that I wanted to talk about before we get this season finale, because this episode will be make or break. is that this all comes down to, have they learned from their last mistakes? Have they learned from the mistakes of Lost? Have we learned from the mistakes of Game of Thrones? One of the show writers is a Game of Thrones writer as well, where an ending has to make sense. The lore has to make sense from the beginning. We have to be able to go back and watch this show, which we will on this channel in season 1 and 2, and be able to point out the things that were placed there that make sense and align with the plot we have now in season 3, 2 years later, 4 years later from when the show originally came out. That is what I talk about a lot on my channel. I still appreciate this show. I still appreciate the drama side of the show, the story it's telling us, the lessons to be learned about human nature and adapting to your circumstances and how to survive and how people would really react in these situations. Watching character development and the drama side of this show is great. I love that side of this show. But you have to also admit that this show would be amazing and one of the best shows of all time if they stick the landing, and if the lore, mythology, and folklore, the history references that are very clearly in this show actually make sense in the end. That's all I wanted to clarify before we watch the season finale, so that you guys and us are all on the same page with my channel. Hit that subscribe button if you want more in-depth breakdowns of From, regardless of how you feel about it. I think it's still a great show. I think it still has a lot of potential. We still have 2 whole seasons left and a whole lot of room for them to have figured this out by now. I am still invested in this show, which is why I have this channel. Shout out to all of my subscribers who have joined me along the way the last couple of weeks. You guys are amazing. I couldn't have imagined having this channel blow up the way that it did and hitting YouTube partnership this fast. And I hope you stick with me as when the season finale is over, I break down that episode for us and we continue to talk about what we actually know so far in From. Go back and see some of the biggest details that a lot of people miss in the earlier seasons so that we can be set up for the rest of this show. I'm excited that it's been renewed for season 4. So I hope you guys are with me along the way. Hit that subscribe button, and I will be putting a poll up probably after the season finale episodes and videos go up about what other shows you guys would like me to get interested in and watch and break down for you guys. Biggest things I'm considering are Severance and Silo. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'll see you guys after this season 10 finale.